As a teacher, I can tell you that there's nothing that bothers me more than word victims. Word victims look and sound a little bit like this.
I couldn't imagine any of them having the patience or to hold out a hand. I couldn't imagine any of them having the patience or to hold out a hand for. I couldn't imagine any of them having the patience or incantation to hold out a hand for. I couldn't imagine any of them having the patience or Mrs. Vasquez, I don't know that word.
There is so much you can do to avoid being a word victim when you come upon a word that you don't know how to pronounce. Let's say you come upon a word you've never read before and you don't know how to sound it out or pronounce it. For example, I was reading the ingredients in a cleaning product the other day and I came upon this word. Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Time to give up on that word. But I'm not a word victim. I'm a word ninja. So I try the following. Word attack! Get your mouth ready to say the word. Cover up the beginning or end of the word. Move your hand along as you say the word piece by piece. Break the word into chunks. See if you recognize any parts of the word.
I think I've heard sulfate before.
Say each chunk one at a time and then repeat. Try to go faster and faster until it sounds right.
Isoalkylamido-propylethyl-dimonium. Ethyl-dimonium. Dimonium ethosulfate. Isoalkylamido-propylethyl-dimonium ethosulfate.
Alright, so let's say you've seen the word before, but you don't know if you're pronouncing it correctly. You can look up the pronunciation in the dictionary. You can give it a try.
Cumin?
Common.
Or cumin, either one.
Yeah.
Cumin?
Yeah. So you've seen that word before?
Sorta. Cumin? Cumin?
Cumin?
Then ask an expert English speaker if you are pronouncing it correctly. Now let's say you can read the word, but you don't know what it means. Word attack! Before anything else, use the context clues around the word to help you out. There are 4 major types of context clues: definition clues, synonym comparison clues, antonym contrast clues, and gist clues. Definition clues are just that. These often come in your textbooks, and they will frequently have a colon, dash, comma, or semicolon after them, but not always. When you read a word you don't know, check for a definition clue by asking yourself if the words after the word directly describe or define the word. Synonym or comparison clues are clues that are usually found in the same, prior, or next sentence as the unknown word. They will compare words that are similar or very close to the meaning of the unknown word. Look for clues like and, as, and like. On the other hand, contrast or antonym clues are clues in the same, prior, or following sentence that contrast a word that is the opposite or nearly the opposite of the unknown word. Look for clues like but, however, in contrast, although, and or. For example, although Indigo hated Irish folk music, her brother Omar was absolutely enthralled by the old-fashioned rhythms and harmonies. Finally, you will sometimes come across words that don't have direct definitions, synonyms, or antonyms, and you'll have to draw from other clues and make inferences or educated guesses using the clues you can find from the context surrounding the unknown word. For example, normally Rohan would have been very curious to see what the men were stitching, but now he was just grateful that both men were engrossed in talking and didn't seem interested in him. This kind of clue is called a gist clue. A good acronym for remembering this is the General Idea of Surrounding Text. The clue in this case is kind of like an antonym clue, but our unknown word is not directly contrasted with another word. Instead, we have to understand that Rohan would normally be curious and probably approach the men to see what's going on. The but here says that this is not a normal situation. So we can figure out that instead he doesn't want to get close to them and is happy that they don't seem interested in him. Whatever kind of talking they're doing, it must be kind of a talking that has got them so focused they don't notice Rohan. If we get the gist of this clue, we understand that engrossed probably means really focused on what they're doing. If you don't recognize any definition, contrast, or comparison clues, you can find gist clues by rereading the sentence. Try to read the sentence with a blank in it and see what might make sense. Reread the sentences before the word. Read on. See if the word appears again, then compare the meaning of that sentence to the first sentence. Try to figure out what part of speech the word is. Knowing something is an adjective, noun, verb, or adverb can sometimes help you figure out a word in context, and will definitely help you when you get to using a dictionary. Okay, so context clues haven't gotten you very far and you're still clueless when it comes to what your word means. It's time for individual word attack! Keeping the context in mind. Think of a word that looks like or sounds like the unfamiliar word. Would the meanings of those words make sense in this context? Let's go back to our word engrossed. You've probably heard the word gross before, but would that word make sense here? No, because if the men were grossed out while they were talking, they'd probably be freaking out and stopping what they were doing and would notice somebody else listening to them for sure. N is a common prefix though, so you can hear it in words like engaged, enraptured, and encircled. N means in, so whatever kind of talking it is, they're into or caught up into it. This leads me to using your knowledge of prefixes, suffixes, and roots to try to figure out part of the meaning. Whether you know it or not, you already know a lot of prefixes, roots, and suffixes without even being aware of it. All of these things are special kinds of morphemes. A morpheme is a fancy name that people who study language use to refer to the smallest unit of language that holds meaning. For example, the word doorknob has two morphemes, door and knob. On their own, they mean different things, but when they're combined, they mean something else entirely. Prefixes and suffixes are usually what's called bound morphemes. We don't use them to mean anything on their own in English, but when you stick them to roots, they take on a predictable meaning. When you see bound morphemes like this, you almost always make meaning of them by reading them backwards. The more prefixes, suffixes, and roots you know, the more words you'll be able to figure out, so it can help to find a list of them and study them. You'll be thankful you did when you have to take the SAT or the ACT to get into college. Still can't find your word? Everybody uses a dictionary sometime. I would recommend my How to Use a Dictionary video to make sure that you avoid any pitfalls that you might encounter when you are using your dictionary. Worst comes to worst, you can just ask somebody about the word. I just wanted to add that learning prefixes, roots, and suffixes might seem easy, but oftentimes it can be really helpful to see a bunch of words in the context of where exactly they come from and how they were born. So I really recommend using an etymology dictionary. I most highly recommend etymonline.com. It's pretty easy to use, and it can be very insightful when it comes to learning new words. Please enjoy your new knowledge, and let me know any comments for improvement.